Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Created Economy podcast. My name is Ken Young, and joining me is my co-host, Greg Narain. Hello, Greg. How's it going?
What's up, Ken? How are you?
Good, good. Thanks, everyone. This is, oh God, I can't remember what episode this is, but this is the latest episode in our weekly interview series where Greg and I, mostly me, because when Greg decides to grace with his presence, talk with the players of the creator economy at large and discuss the key topics impacting the growth of the industry. You can find out more about us on our website at createdeconomy.com, and be sure to find all of our latest episodes. We publish every Wednesday on our YouTube at Created Economy. You can also follow us everywhere on social media at Created Economy. And if you want an audio version of this, you don't like to see our beautiful faces, you can always listen to us wherever you download your favorite podcasting app. I won't actually list them all because Greg actually doesn't know half of these companies. So you can just find us anywhere you listen to.
They're just made up words.
And if you want to find out more information, if you want to be a guest on the show, check us out at createdeconomy.com/guest list. And with that, just enough housekeeping items. Let's bring on our guest at this time. He is the founder and former CEO of LockerGnome. He is the organizer behind the amazing GnomeDeck conference, which I believe Greg and I have been to many times. I think maybe once we went to the last one, GnomeDeck 10. We were there together probably, oh God, about 10 plus years ago or something like that. I don't remember.
It's all blur.
Yeah.
It's a lot of drinking usually.
But our guest is one of the original creators that's been out there for a while. He's now a product manager at Intel. Everyone give a warm welcome to our friend, Chris Pirillo. How's it going, Chris?
It is Friday going.
Friday.
Let me tell you, I live for Fridays now.
Don't we all? I mean, it's like, it's the end of the week,
Yeah, but it didn't used to be that way. When you set your own hours, and you set your own schedule and you set your own agenda,
yep.
Every day is, I'm not going to say like a Friday. Sometimes every day could be like a Monday, but now it's something where I very much look forward to Fridays.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to your history. I mean, you've started off on Twitch TV. Oh my God, like a throwback to that, like Twitch TV. You did a call-in show.
Oh, wait, Tech TV.
Tech TV.
Yeah, well, but LockerGnome started before Tech TV.
Oh, that was like Iowa, wasn't it? Or like
so in '96. Now I love when we're talking about the creator economy. It's so funny to put a label on it because back then, the dial-up days, we did not have labels for things. We didn't know, there weren't services, or as I contextualize it, what used to be difficult is now easy, and what used to be easy is now difficult. And so it was a different time. And that's kind of how I got my start is just independently, and doing what I thought was intuitive and connecting people with what I thought I found valuable, and ultimately they found valuable as well. So I acted very much like a filter, in the early days. And then, throughout that time, it was everything that I had done with LockerGnome, which was a horrible name to go with, but it was a high school nickname. It was the beginning of the .com. What am I going to call? I don't know. I couldn't think of anything.
The real names online anyways.
I mean, I went with the handle. So stupid me. This is the era before personal branding and all that. Use that. And so that's how the GnomeDeck brand came out. And it did run. It's been over a decade now since it basically was closed. But back then, you couldn't. Google didn't exist, at least not yet in that sense. I mean, search engines did exist, but finding things and connecting with other people, we were still just kind of crawling out of Usenet in those early days, which was fantastic. Usenet was amazing, but there was finally an opportunity to take something that you do something that you wanted to do without having to work with a template. And so it's funny to hear people talk about decentralization. I'm like, oh, everything old is new again. Like, yes, we were doing this. Oh, we're calling it Web 3.0 now, I guess. Okay, well, new technologies and we'll evolve with it. And the pendulum will eventually swing the other direction. Like, it's going to be cyclical. So, back then, independence was not even something that you could learn about with any degree of ease. So you just did it. You made things, you created things, you shared your experiences, and it was fun. I mean, the internet, oh my God, I can't even explain how fun the internet used to be. As not ubiquitous as it was, there was some kind of charm to that. And now it's a given. It used to be a hassle to get, internet connection, let alone Wi-Fi at a hotel, like an internet connection. You'd have to jack in your to a phone, an actual physical phone line. So with the internet in those days, creators existed, but in a different way. We weren't homogenized. We weren't, we each had our own, our interests and way of approaching things without necessarily having to, there was no template. That's the easiest way to explain it. There was no template. And there's something freeing as a creator, as an entrepreneur, to not having to do something in a formulaic capacity, because it's been done before. Like, now you want to start streaming online. Okay, go to this website, click this button, you're off to the races. Yeah. It wasn't that way. You couldn't do that. Like, back then, I mean, you could. It would have been very, very expensive. And, the video was probably, less the size of a postage stamp. But, back in the Real Player 2.0 days, like this early era. But that was also possibly the most thrilling part about it. And that's what drove me to being a creator and discovering that part of me. I mean, I was a creative writer, and that's what drove me to start writing and ultimately starting Locker Gnome. That was, again, in 1996. The idea was to be able to act as a filter to find awesome things that were out there on the internet and say, hey, this is a cool thing you download. This is a cool website you can go to. This is this, that, and the other thing. It was never technology for the sake of technology. I'm not a hardware guy. I've always been more of a software fan. It was the experience that technology would enable. That's the thing that always thrilled me. So it was that perspective of being able to synthesize and take in all this information and synthesize it for a general audience that led to the opportunity to host the show on Tech TV. It was everything I did before then.
Yeah. So would you say the algorithms, like you're talking about, like right now, oh, these kids have it so good. Back in my day, we weren't using Adobe Premiere and all this stuff. We were hand drawing our graphics.
Well, we did, okay, and that was fun, and it was stupid, and it was simple, and it took a creative mind to be able to look at something and see a blank page and then figure out what to do with it. And I'm not trying to do, get off my lawn kind of thing, because I still very much enjoy, what is available to me today. It's just, it's not exactly the same. And certainly creators, I don't think, they're not seen the same way, because honestly, anybody and everybody can be a creator. And the biggest problem, if there was a problem in the quote unquote creator economy, is attention, a lack of attention, because there's so much amazingness and awesomeness to pay attention to.
Yeah. Has algorithms really kind of changed the game in terms of for creators? Like back in the Web 1 days, when you had even, and then when with Web 2 and the YouTube, when the actual creators were kind of like the thing before it kind of became very ubiquitous in the pandemic times, like algorithms weren't necessarily that pestery, weren't as much of a definer of promotion. Would you say that right now the algorithms that these platforms have kind of affect how, which creators stand out, which ones don't?
Oh, zero doubt in my mind. And yeah, Al Gore, the algorithm, right? That's, I assume, what you're talking, because he invented the internet, right? So the algorithm, that's him. He's dancing and he makes the. Never mind. I was going way too far with that. Yes, and I understand why platforms feel the need to do that, to act as the filter. But the problem with doing that is it tends to reward the wrong people. It rewards the people who know how to play that game. And I'm not saying they don't deserve to be rewarded, but let's face it, we've run into problems specifically with misinformation, specifically because there are those who know how to work the algorithm in whatever that in whatever general way that is. But it's true. There used to be a time where I would go to YouTube and A, it was fun, and B, I could see my subscriptions. Now I don't even bother. I could honestly couldn't even tell you the last channel I subscribed to on YouTube, not for years, because I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of subscribing to something? The algorithm is going to show me the thing that it thinks I want. I'm like, doesn't matter. I'll watch as many Saturday morning cartoons on YouTube. It's still going to serve some random bozo. I'm like, why do I care about this? Like, why do I care about this? YouTube knows what it's doing in the sense that, hey, I'm not going to question what revenue Google's driving and its KPIs. But as far as a creator is concerned, there are those who believe, and I think they're not wrong. If you want to win on YouTube, you have to play to the algorithm. They're not wrong. That just makes me not want to play the game. If people are interested in that, hey man, go for it. Certain people can do it. That was never me. I was never a YouTuber. I posted things on YouTube, but it was largely dumped from Ustream back in the day. But this was before Justin TV pivoted to Twitch. Ustream existed as a live streaming platform, and I would just dump those videos and put them onto YouTube. So I was never using YouTube for the ways that other people had. So when YouTube, Facebook, Twitter to a certain degree, although they've been straddling that fence, and I'm a little concerned about that. Instagram, certainly. TikTok, absolutely. When it comes to having to manage the amount of content that any one person might see, there's almost a conflict of interest between the creator and the platform that is allegedly built for the creator. I mean, Google's never really figured out social media. They never have, and I don't know if they ever will. I'm not going to really bring up Google Plus as a prime example of this, but they still haven't figured it out. They can copy as many features as they want from Twitch. It's the culture that they've built around YouTube that's the problem. It's not the features or the lack of features. So the algorithm gets in the way if you're not willing to play to an algorithm.
Gotcha. Greg, any questions for Chris?
Yeah, no, Chris, I mean, it's great. You obviously have been a creator for a long time. I guess, speaking like our show is about like sort of how creators can sort of, I guess, earn a living, sort of doing this. Everything old is new, I think, as you're much pointing out. But I guess the question is, in my mind, are you seeing any better ways, newer ways, or interesting ways to sort of monetize now? Can you reflect, I guess, on sort of like, it used to be conferences and other things, right? Like in the original days, that was like how a lot of folks, sort of made their living as a creative person or whatever it may be. Like now it seems like there's a whole new landscape, and I'm kind of curious, what are both, I think, things that you're dipping your toe into now, and testing out. And if you were a new creator today, like what might you recommend as maybe the non-obvious starting point, right? For someone who's like, hey, should I start doing what everyone does and try to grow my way all the way up to, to this spot? Or is there some hack or something in the way there that might be useful?
I'm always surprised. I think it takes work, and it takes a work ethic, certainly. Or you may stumble upon a formula that works. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that each platform is different, and just because everybody is using one platform doesn't mean that you should. If it's not something that you're okay with, you should fall into a platform or choose a primary platform where you find yourself most comfortable. And that's going to be different for every person. In terms of monetization, yeah, I mean, I laugh because, again, we didn't have templates. You had to figure it out. And now those things are kind of figured out for you. And there's so many people, I guess, they call it, they call them influencers. And I hate that word because influence is a byproduct. It's not necessarily the focus. So I think if you're thinking, oh, I want to be an influencer, I think you're in it for the wrong reasons. I think having a good feel for what it is you want to do, what where it is you might want to go, and then the willingness to adapt could be critical. I mean, you might try doing something and are not getting much of a return, and then you want to give up. Well, maybe you're just doing it on the wrong platform. Maybe you're just not finding your audience there. Maybe you've got to go to where that audience is, wherever they happen to be, and then you have to be able to play according to the quote unquote rules of any given platform. Monetization is an interesting a question, because it's never been easier, but because of that, everyone's doing it, and when everyone's doing it, there's only so much of a pie to go around. So I go back to the problem of the biggest problem is attention, or a lack thereof, because you're vying for a wallet attention as much as anything else, which just reinforces the idea that if you're going to do it, you've got to believe you're going to do it, and you're the one who's got to be able to pull yourself through. You can't count on anybody to be in your corner. You've got to be your own champion, and you've got to put in a lot of work. And there's some people, like, you come hit the scene and they've got a video that takes off, or a piece of content that takes off, and there are outliers, but I would argue that you're better off trying to march towards a greater degree of stability with what it is you're doing, rather than hoping to quote unquote go viral. And with that, looking for smart ways of generating revenue such that you don't upset the delicate balance between what it is that you're doing, the intended audience, and making sure that you're able to, I guess, enjoy what it is that you do, rather than being bogged down. I mean, especially when you get to the point where you're thinking, oh, I'm wasting so much time. Well, if you feel that you're wasting time, maybe being a creator is not for you. Maybe creating, in one way, shape, or form is not for you, because it shouldn't feel like a waste of time. Not to say that, you don't waste your time in the act or the process of creation, but you'll learn as you go the things that you enjoy, and the things that you may not enjoy. But you're going to have to wear so many hats, especially in the beginning, and learn which way is going to be the best way for you, the one that yields the most amount of, not the most amount of revenue necessarily, but the most amount of satisfaction. So, I think, I could look at something and think, oh yeah, that's the path to monetization would be this, or this. But the thing is, with more and more creators out there, what you might think is simple, oh, I'll get a sponsor. Well, it's possible, but what kind of numbers are you pulling? Especially against your contemporaries, is that market flooded? Has that market already been well served? What kind of content are you doing that drives that attention? What kind of personality do you have? If you use a personality in your content, there's so many variables that are there, and they will continue to change as platforms go in and out of favor, as new content types arise, and as you continue to wind your way through this labyrinth, wherever the heck it's going. Because honestly, I'm not even sure if I could predict where the heck it's going. I just know that the hardest part is not necessarily doing it; it's getting started and continuing to do it. Starting is easy, but continuing, that takes a lot of a lot more effort than I think people understand.
So as you look at and kind of sticking with Greg's question, talking about like the compensation for creators, I think there is a feeding frenzy from platforms for these creators to say, hey, go, create reels, or do YouTube shorts, or do these ephemeral things, and just to gain attention from users. And they're relying on, this is not a new form of bribery, but they're launching creator funds. Every major platform has something to that effect. What do you think about these creator funds, and are they being done correctly?
Uh, so there's a pie, right? These funds are a pie. They're not an infinite amount of money, and just a slice of the pie that you'd be lucky to get, I'm not sure is going to be enough to be interesting. I mean, I've seen creators who have got, would have far more reach than I ever did, and are fantastically better at what they do than I ever was, and they're saying they're pointing out their numbers, and I'm like, wow, I'm glad I didn't chase that. It wouldn't even be, for me, wouldn't even be worth it. So it's not a bad idea, but you've got to ask yourself, just how much of this pie am I going to get, and who am I competing against? And you're competing against the world. You're competing against people that are very skilled as much as you might be skilled. And even if you put in 110%, and even if you've never created better content and it's competitive, you may still walk away. You may walk away with a huge chunk of that pie, but how big was that pie?
Yeah.
Like, whatever, thousands of dollars split between how many different people. Like, that's almost like, to me, like almost like the lottery, almost like prize money. It's not a bad idea. I mean, don't leave money on the table, certainly, but I guess from everything I've seen, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I think people would be better off not concentrating on low-hanging fruit, but focusing and refining what it is they do, such that they can find success irrespective of a creator fund, whatever they determine success to be, however that's determined.
What advice would you give to creators as they think about, starting off? I think it was, back in your day, there was,
Thanks. Yeah, I kind of did that to myself.
I think that's a running theme here. Back in my day, but I think when you started, right, there were very few options, as you alluded to. Like, if you wanted to do live streaming, it would have been a little bit more. It would have been more expensive.
And what are you talking about? There was cave paintings, there was tablets, there were so many options.
Greg, don't laugh. I remember interviewing you in the early days of the I had a podcast.
Yes.
And I remember interviewing you. I remember.
Well, we're practically the same age, right? So
yes, I remember back in '02. Yeah.
What was life like before before 2000s?
Oh man, I still remember, man.
Oh my goodness!
Sorry, not
with 24 or 56K modems.
Yeah, man, those were the days. Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt your flow.
No, but kind of to that point, like, I mean, there were technical limitations in being a creator. But people did it. Obviously, I mean, you weren't like, hey, I'm going to go create a live stream. When you create a locker room, you avail yourself of the technology that's out there, and you were allowed to be, and that helps you be creative in terms of how you execute it.
That's the thing.
Yeah. But
I'm
now,
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, just like now, there's a plethora of solutions to, like, technology is supposed to make it easier to do that, but then you're like, you feel overwhelmed because there's like, okay, I want to go live. But okay, so I can go live. I want to syndicate to Twitch, and I do YouTube. Oh, I got to push it to Discord, and I got to go on to Twitter Spaces. I got to, like, you feel like you have to be everywhere. How have you stuck true to your North Star? Because you're primarily on Twitch now. But like, how do you maintain your focus?
So I think in there you're asking like something, how would someone start, or where would someone start?
Yeah.
Choose the platform you're happiest with, that you think it works for you and gives you a path forward. For some, they don't care about monetization, so Twitter is going to be fine. It's going to establish them as potentially an expert or someone who's got a degree of passion or interest in a field. If you love talking, live streaming is probably going to work. If not, podcasting vicariously, or Twitter Spaces to a certain degree now, which Twitter Spaces it's a fantastic idea. If you're more into storytelling, like short form storytelling, or helping people in that sense, maybe YouTube, so much of that depends. Now, when you talk about, and there was a time where I did what you're suggesting, and I think what you even do, multi-platform streaming simultaneously. I'm not so sure that's always a great idea, and for a few different reasons. One, each platform is different. There are different engagement tools on each platform, and I feel that there's a greater strength in being able to optimize and focus firepower on one platform, knowing full well that I'd sideline others, but focusing on that one platform at any given time gives me a greater ability to connect with and leverage that platform's capacity at a substantially deeper level versus, sneezing across, 5 different, platforms simultaneously. It's great, I think, for brands that are just going to pump up the numbers, but in terms of actually like doubling down and optimizing and refining a strategy, it's not always a great idea because you lose out on so many values. For example, on Twitch, one of the things that you can do after a stream is you can raid another channel, which is a great way of saying hello. Now, YouTube has copied this feature just this past week, but as I also referred to this in just a couple minutes ago, YouTube might copy a feature, but the YouTube doesn't know what it wants to be when it grows up. Well, you can do live video, but you can do recorded video, and you can do shorts too. And okay, what's it optimized for? Where do I? Oh, so I go to YouTube. Let me see who's live. I can't really easily see who's live. Okay, well, so are these short? I didn't subscribe to this. What is? So like putting things onto YouTube works at a certain level. You can now, I don't know what they call it. It's another term. They don't want to say raid, but it's basically a raid on YouTube, but the culture's not there. So you might have the same content on 2 different platforms, but at that point, you're potentially bifurcating or worse, you're just fragmenting audiences by not allowing them the capability to connect with each other in and around the thing that you happen to be producing, if it's live, or even to a certain degree, if it was pre-recorded. So, it's I maintain a focus, so to speak, and it's funny because I do focus, and some would say that I don't seem like I'm focused, but I focus on Twitch because it allows me to play to all of my strengths, and I have weaknesses too. Every person does, and it's knowing my weaknesses. In fact, I know where I'm weak, and so if I chose a platform that would only exacerbate those weaknesses, it ain't going to be a good time. But my focus is in doing something that I'm happy with, I'm comfortable with, I want to do, I enjoy, that resonates, at any level with people. I made a goal for myself because I did the 24/7 live stream back in 2006, the early days, right? I had the camera was up 24/7. And I did that. I didn't do live streaming for a few years. I was dabbling on YouTube, but I just couldn't find a formula that I was comfortable with. I didn't like what it was that I was doing. I didn't like talking about the things people wanted me to talk about. They wanted me to talk about the latest iPhone, and quite honestly, nothing's going to put me to sleep faster. I'm not interested in technology in the same way that other people are. So I couldn't do it. I could not be genuine to an audience and speak to a greater community if I wasn't genuine to myself. I would have been worse than a poser. It would just been fake. Like it would have been just to check boxes. So I did not really have much of a focus because I didn't know what that focus needed to be for years. And then in 2020, after we all got through it, I realized, I got through that year and I felt like I was missing something. So I said, all right, I'm going to make a goal for myself. In 2021, I'm going to live stream every night it doesn't matter. Every day in 2021, I'm going to live stream. At that point, I wasn't even sure if it was going to be on Twitch. But it wasn't too long before I fell into that groove, doubled down on Twitch, and recognized that this was a good place to lay a foundation. And I did that. I succeeded. My only goal was to do it every day in 2021, and I did. And so that was something that I as much as I'd live streamed in the past, trying to find my way into a formula, trying to find myself and trying to find my creative voice, and just sitting there and geeking out, talking about, what's the latest entertainment, Moon Knight, and, are you seeing the Doctor Strange, or have you seen Strange New Worlds? It's now out. Did you watch the season finale or series finale of Ozark, right? Or, hey, it's Star Wars Day, which, by the way, yes, it's every day. Star Wars Day is every day. I need to say that. I need to put that out there.
I can't. I don't think we can tell that you're a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You gotta
just a bit.
there more.
And I got into 3D printing in 2021, so that became a part. And so I started. I allowed myself the freedom to be creative and to try something that I enjoyed doing, to try to find my voice again, to try to find myself again, to try to find something that I could contribute to that was bigger than myself. And so that was my journey in 2021, led us into 2022. I've still been doing it. I stream every night on Twitch because I enjoy doing it. And so that focus, the only focus I had was just to do it every night. It was the discipline that gave me the focus and to concentrate on one platform, because I didn't just want to say, me personally, I didn't want to say, watch me wherever you want. I'm like, no, if I'm gonna be doing this on Twitch, I'll take clips and post them to other channels. That's easy to do, and tease things and post photos and what have you. But at the same time, if I didn't let people know where I was, specifically one single platform, they almost wouldn't know where to look. I needed to basically focus them more so than I needed to focus myself, focus people, focus an intended audience, more so than me keeping the focus.
Gotcha. Greg, any questions? Turn it over to you.
Yeah, no. Well, I appreciate all of that for sure. And Chris, I guess, one of the things that's evolved in, in the last sort of several years is this idea of the creator economy. We were talking about earlier, right? How there weren't really labels for all the things we've come through, I guess, right? But one of the concepts in this arena is this idea of like these 1,000 true fans, or even this like 100 true fans sort of concept, right? I'm kind of curious. Monetization has traditionally been like an audience-based sort of thing, right? For content creators, right? Like you aggregate, build a large audience, and then basically you find ways to monetize that, right? Like move them to physical places, sell them things, etc. Right? But at the same time, I guess, I'm kind of curious about your thoughts about that sort of like inner circle VIP style experience, right? And have you found relevance in it, or any experimentation in it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Unfortunately, I experimented too early. So I had a subscription service before Patreon launched, and I knew its value, and it worked. I mean, it worked very well. But the problem is that I had to roll my own, right? So Patreon comes around, I'm like, yeah, this is great. But or even Patreon was so early that the amount of pushback was tremendous. Like, and I bore the brunt. So now it's like, it's a given. You can you can Patreon, you can subscribe on Twitch, you can be a member on YouTube, super follows on Twitter. So sure. Are those options there? Yes. I mean, do I have enabled? Absolutely. But it's a great idea. The 1,000 True Fans actually sprang out of a blog post. I want to say, before it was anything, it was a blog post, just a simple blog post. Couldn't even tell you right now where it is in domains, because I couldn't even tell you how many billion domains there are out there. But the original post deposit was basically, you found 1,000 true fans and you served them well. You could effectively, you could make it. And so that was it was, I'm not going to say prescient, but prescient. But it was certainly something that gave me a great pause, and pretty much had me thinking the direction of, instead of just doing things for free, what if I had doubled down on the things that people wanted most from me? And I made certain decisions that hindsight 2020, I probably would have made differently, but the industry was different. I felt kind of, I harmed myself by being too far ahead. And I don't mean that in a braggadocious kind of way. It's just that I've tended to be I used to be, right on the cusp of like the bleeding edge of where trends are, and being, sometimes when you're too far ahead, you lose your shirt. So I think crowdfunding options are a fantastic idea if you have the base, if you have something people want that they can't get anywhere else, and if you serve them in a way that they enjoy or they appreciate. But just turning on a Patreon campaign or super follows is not gonna. For what reason? Like, I mean, forget your value adds. Oh, behind the scenes, no. I will say that the people who want to support you don't even need an excuse to support you. They're going to support you. It doesn't matter what you throw or don't throw at them in terms of a bonus. They will support you without argument. Those are your true fans. And to find those people, you have to build enough of a base of people who cannot live. This is it's a little dramatic. Who enjoy the time that they spend with you. I didn't want to say cannot live without you. That's a bit much, but they like what you offer. They appreciate what you offer, or how you offer it, and focusing on them, building that base. After that happens, or maybe concurrently, that's where you're going to be able to find the 1,000 true fans. And that's going to be, most of the people out there, most 95% of the people are just, they're never going to pay for anything, and they're going to block ads. So you're never going to make any money, but that shouldn't necessarily stop you. The hope is you can, enable and find another way to engage them as much of a fan as they are. And they could be a fan and never pay a dime. They could be a fan. There's no wrong way to fan, in the sense. I'm like, the way to look at it is like, if you're supporting in one way, shape, or form, then it's very appreciated. Whatever that is. Hey, you watched tonight. Thank you. You shared the link. Hey, that's awesome. Thank you very, very much. It's very appreciated. But just having and turning on that option is, there are people that have enough of a value add that they are going to reap the benefit. But I would say for most people, that's going to be a very, very, very heavy lift.
Gotcha. So I think those that can have their 1,000 true fans or more, like obviously, I think creators are hoping that having them will be enough to pay the bills. And and there's plenty of these surveys that have been out there that shows that these people who are part-time creators aren't necessarily making enough to live, aren't making a living wage, right? They're struggling to get by, and
that's going to get worse. By the way, it's going to get worse. So not to be, I know I don't want to be dour, but like I said, this is how much attention is out there, right? And there are more things clamoring for our attention.
Yeah.
Not just people, not just fellow creators, anything takes attention away. And as easy as it is to draw attention, that means that it's not a competitive advantage anymore. So the problem that you're speaking to is going to become more challenging. It doesn't mean that more money won't start flowing in, but as more money flows in, so do more people. As more people flow in, so it's that, as you're continuing down this line.
You point out an interesting thing, right? Like, I think a lot of folks were like, I'm going to unbundle my cable, right? And I'm like, yeah, but you're paying more for the three things that you want, right? And I've made this point many times in the past about the sort of creator economy. I just don't see it happening. I'm not going to have $1,000, $2,000 a month in subscriptions to individual creators, right? Like, that's folly, right? Like, no one had that money to spend before. Why would it suddenly happen just because you make the offering available, right?
Here's what I'd argue. And I think you're right. I don't disagree with you. People have said the same thing. Like, well, why did you cancel your cable or satellite subscription? Because now you're paying more. I'm like, well, I may be paying more, but I'm actually seeing more of what I want. So I have no problem spending twice as much on entertainment these days and getting 3 times as much out of it than I did before. So, you're not wrong in the sense that the wallet only goes so far. It applies
to creators too, actually, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Right? Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's like, but you're right. Like, there's a finite amount that inevitably everyone's going to have their limit. And that means they're going to have to focus their firepower on the thing that they enjoy most. And there are other people, like Twitch is a great example where you can gift subs, and you can do this kind of on YouTube. But like I said, the YouTube culture is bass backwards. So on Twitch, you might subscribe to a channel. You could use an Amazon Prime to get a free subscription to a channel every month. You get one. Or someone might gift a sub if they're a supporter of the channel and say, oh, this person may not, they're new or they're always around, but they can't sub. Here's a gifted sub. Here you go. You can be a subscriber and use the special emotes and do whatever you can do in that channel. So there are ways that platforms can better enable that to scale. And I think that Twitch example of gifted subs is a prime example that I would hope that other platforms would emulate, because that would get you to that mark.
I heard gifted subs was like 1/3 of Twitch's revenue also.
Wouldn't surprise me. Like, you've got people who are as much as creators are very generous with their time, there are people who aren't necessarily creators who are generous in other ways. There are viewers who are generous with their attention. Every one of these pieces in that ecosystem just creates this very it's a delicate balance. But if it's something where it brings people closer together. It brings that appreciation, puts a finer point on that appreciation. It doesn't surprise me, because people who want to, as much as I enjoy being a creator, I enjoy being in watching creators too. I can't scale my attention. I can't scale everything. So when that happens for me, I'm like, wow, a person who's a part of this audience, who's a part of this any one channel, wants to contribute. They want to feel like they're contributing too. There may not be a moderator, but they want to contribute. And the way they can contribute is making sure that other people feel like they belong in that channel as well, or is just as welcome. So it plays into all the right, it hits all the right notes. And I think that's why a gifted sub kind of scenario really works.
Well, you're touching on an important part, another distinction that, I know we're getting close to the end today, but I mentioned earlier that there's audiences and I think you've been successful though in doing the harder part, the second part, right? Because an audience is one thing, a community is a very different beast, right? Like,
yes.
And most people don't actually understand or have the willingness, the intentionality, sort of the persistence to sort of like get to the point to bear through to where you have an actual community of people, right? I feel like Twitch is far more a community, for example, than like any YouTube comment section, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And can you speak a little bit, I guess, about that? Like some of your lessons or thoughts about like sort of fostering community? Because I do think that renewable energy revenue, like the power for it comes from community, not from an audience, right? And that's why most people who just turn on super follows or whatever crap like they put out tomorrow for like monetizing the people who, are following you or whatever it is, most of the time doesn't work.
So how much time do we have? I've been talking about community, well over a decade, right? I've done presentations on this stuff. There's a lot of takeaways. Community, yes, is a sense of belonging, but each channel, I hesitate to call a channel a community. I hesitate to call a chat room a community. Community is what you bring, right? It's where you take it. So each one of these people might have, each creator might have a share. They may have an interest, and where those interests intersect, that's where community exists. And so no one person owns the community, in a greater sense. No one person really owns a community. Like if you just follow one person because of a shared interest, that's not really a community as much as it is a cult of personality. Because if that one person decides, I'm no longer interested in that thing, are you still going to be interested in that person? If your interest hasn't changed, it was just where that intersected. So community isn't just about that one to many. That's not community. That's cult of personality. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, Lord knows I've engendered that. That when you give people an opportunity to be a part of something greater than themselves, that's community. That's where community lies. And unfortunately, a lot of creators won't do that. They don't do that, and they won't do that. Now they'll speak about community, our community. I'm like, well, I'd argue that's not really. It's not really community. Community is the antithesis of ego. And if you've got an ego, hi, I'm an ego. Hi, here's my face. If an ego is driving it, it's the antithesis of community, right? They're just using it as it sounds right. It sounds good. It sounds warm and friendly, but they're misunderstanding that what it is, what it truly is, being a part of something greater than yourself. And simply following a person is not community. It just is. It's cult, a cult of personality. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way, because like I said, I stream on my personal channel. I stream on Twitch every day. I'm going to call it like it is. I'm like, that's a cult of personality, because I fart around. I walk barefoot over Lego bricks. I do weird things. I mean, come on. It's like life's too short and I'm getting too old. So I want to have fun. So, but I'm very hesitant to say that is community. It's fun, and we share this time together, and we have shared interests. But it doesn't have to be community to feel like you're enjoying that time. You can still be, a member of an audience who's watching this one-to-many relationship. But that feeling of belonging is not about that. That feeling of belonging is being able to take those relationships outside of a platform. It is transcendent. And this is and I don't just mean, well, join the community on Twitter, join the community on this. No. But that's not It's just a place for you to post stuff.
It's just a shared interest, right?
Yeah, that's it. And that's all it is. And you take that, you don't, you like 3D printing. You don't just like 3D printing because of me. No, you enjoy it because of what it brings you. And you're a part of something else because I don't own that relationship. Unless I own a product or unless I own a service, right? Then I might, have the spirit of community around that. But that's something that I have. Like, I hesitate to name. Well, okay, I use 3D printing as an example. No one owns it. Everyone might, people might enjoy it, but no one owns the community, right? There may be subgroups and subdivisions and sub interests around it, but you're still a part of this greater nebulous thing. So to have an opportunity to tap into that, to recognize that you are a part of something greater than yourself, that's where community is. So when I see it really agitates me when I see and hear creators speak about it, but they don't understand it. They've never built one before. They've been a part of it, and they use it in a very, they use it as a almost as a marketing term.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it waters down the value of community, belonging to something greater than yourself, contributing to something greater than yourself.
Emulate some form of
right.
Sort of
yes, so-and-so was successful
or closeness or whatever, right?
You know what I'm saying? Like community, it sounds like, oh, it's great. I don't want to say audience because I have a relationship. You know what? I have relationships with people too, but it's not defined as community. Community is being a part of something greater than yourself. I don't care what the dictionary says. Dictionary definitions change all the time. Like I'm just telling you, this is how the internet communities have worked. And there have been forums and have existed in the idea of people coalescing around, and getting to know each other and taking those relationships outside of those platforms. That's community. The platform itself, not community. It gives chance for people to connect and interconnect and communities to intersect and communities to come together and to be a part of something, but it is not in and of itself a community. A channel is not in and of itself a community.
So on that,
sorry, not to be too driven, but this is something that I really care about. Yeah.
We have very similar thoughts on it.
Okay, good. I'm just like, man.
I mean, but speaking of cult and community, let's stick with that for example, because I think you might have some stuff to say about it, Chris. I'm not exactly sure. But
me opinionated? No, I'm too shy.
Let's talk about this latest thing that you're working on. I mean, your full-time job is at Intel, but as we've clearly talked about, you're a creator at heart. So you have this new venture or new project rather called MakerDeck.
Yeah.
What is that about? And how, because here when you and I DM'd each other, you said, "Oh, here you go. You sent me this link, this link to your Twitch, which is on the screen now, twitch.tv/MakerDeck." And people that are watching, you can see on the background.
Yeah, this is how I monitor. Yeah, over here.
Monitor. He has basically it's 3D printing, and I'm watching and I'm like, wow, that's like, I don't know, it's like watching paint dry, but in a weird way. It's like, oh my god, it's like,
yeah, it's a good way. It's a good watching paint dry kind of way. Well, it's satisfying to see something come together. So anyway, I don't want to jump over your question,
but no, can you explain what is MakerDeck and why should people be interested in joining this community cult or group?
So it's just a Twitch channel. It's just a Twitch feed, 24/7 makers. So not just 3D printing. We've had people painting. We've had people, crafting. We've had people crocheting. We've had people building Lego sets. Like the act of making. So we use a platform, that's decentralized. So you use a web browser. To communicate, right? We're having a real-time conversation without installing any software. And I've used these platforms before, and I started thinking in having other interviews with other people, at least inside the maker community, and kept thinking of all these shortcomings that Twitch has, like pain points. So this is the entrepreneur mind, right? What is painful? What pain are you fixing? What pain are you solving? And there are one of the bigger pains for someone on Twitch, if not, all creators, is discovery. Discovery is impossible. And the way to get around discovery is you gotta pound the pavement. You've got to get out and you've got to meet people. You've got to connect with people. You've got to go to where they are, right? You can't expect they're going to beat a path to your door. You can't just say, oh, I'm streaming on YouTube. Okay, everybody is. Like, you've got to show up where other people are streaming onto YouTube. Like, where are you going to connect? And some people don't necessarily know where to begin with that. So there are people who do 3D printing and these types of makers and crafters that exist on Twitch, certainly. And they just sit there and they do things. And they sometimes chat with people and sometimes they don't. But they're still in that act of making. You watch it kind of come together. It's called a visual ASMR, believe it or not, where you're able to see the process in this project just kind of come together very slowly. But there's some degree of satisfaction to watch this unfold before your eyes. So there are individuals who, and including myself, when I stream on Twitch, it's just me and my 3D printer and chatting, and other people do the same thing. And I thought, well, if these web-based platforms, right, like StreamYard, exist and they allow for up to 10 people to stream simultaneously, well, they don't have to turn on their mic, and people turn on a webcam. I'm like, I bet you anything we can just put in, 10 makers, none of them talking, but they're all doing something. So you can pay attention to it without having to pay attention to it. You can have it on a second screen and still watch another video or listen to a podcast and not miss a beat, because you don't have to listen to it, but you can watch.
So
Not
is
just
it
one,
multiple?
10.
It's multiple people. Is it kind of like a StreamYard style experience, but
Yes,
like multiple guests are in, but no one talks?
ad hoc, completely ad hoc. They were streaming on their own. They started following yesterday. They said, "Oh my God, this is so cool. How can I stream into this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, here's the instructions for how to join. We make sure that you're not a random bozo." And like half hour later, he was streaming his print in amongst the rest. So it's ad hoc. It's all you do is just turn on. If you have a web, you don't even need to have a Twitch channel. Like you could all you have is a webcam or like a smartphone that you can turn into a webcam. All you need is that in a web browser. So it's been interesting because as an entrepreneur, this is what gets me excited, right? Because I tried something new. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. And the outcome has been there are people who've been, streaming their makes, and they don't want to stream any other way because they don't want to talk. They don't want to interface. They don't want to chat. They don't want to set up a channel, but it's easy, and they want to showcase what they're making while it's being made. So it gave them a solution. So they enjoy it. Some teachers who have found out about it have been showing MakerDeck, like STEM educators, right? Science, what is it? Science. I know this. Science.
Technology,
math. Tech? Is it tech?
Yeah. I thought it was
engineering, mathematics. Okay. Yeah. So, I knew math and I knew science, even though I sucked at them. Some of the educators have put it up on their the feed up on their TV because it's family friendly. There's no audio. It's all visual to provide. Some of them have said inspiration for students. So like, where do I begin? What could I print? Well, look, someone's printing a dragon. Someone's printing a dragoning. Someone's printing a cup. Someone's printing a mug. Someone's printing a bust. So it has been an interesting outcome to it, and more importantly, it's given me something that's greater than myself, and given other people an opportunity to be a part of something greater than themselves too. So that it in and of itself is not a community. It's a part of a greater community of makers. It's been fun. It's been interesting. I love the challenges because it reminds me of the early days of like, well, StreamYard doesn't exactly work very well, but it works well enough. And Twitch has limitations too that we've got to get past. So, how do we do this effectively? Because there's no process. How do we onboard effectively? How do we rotate effectively? And so many questions we don't necessarily have answers to, but darn the torpedoes, if you will. Like we're going, we're doing it, and people have enjoyed it. And it takes no processing whatsoever. You see it and you're like, oh, it's just a bunch of people making them. Like, yes, it's not a heavy lift. It's very simple. It's straightforward. It's not something that you even have to figure out. And that's interesting in the sense of with making, sometimes the processes can be very challenging. And you see people 3D printing and talking about 3D printing terms like extrusion and retraction and slicing. Could go right over your head and you lose interest before you had a chance to latch on. Something like MakerDeck gives someone an opportunity, a very low friction opportunity to see what people are doing before they start venturing down the path of figuring out how they can do it for themselves, because they're intrigued by what it is they're making, not the process of making. So it's been an interesting, I'm calling it a project at this point. All it is basically a Twitch channel 24/7. It is running. There's somebody inevitably at most 10, even overnight. Another interesting thing that came out of this, again, like as an entrepreneur, this is what I enjoy, not the pivoting, but like doing something and then seeing how other people use it. Didn't realize this was going to be a thing, but there's actually sometimes higher view count in the nighttime here in North America because the other side of the world is watching and they enjoy it. Even though I haven't had a chance to interface with them because I'm asleep, they enjoy it because they have nowhere else to go. And usually everyone else is asleep when they're awake. And so they don't have a chance to participate like this. So MakerDeck has given them an opportunity to coalesce and to congregate and to chat and to support and to commiserate and hang out and know they have a place to go that's always there. It's always on because, of course, Twitch has the chat, right next to it. So that's been another interesting thing. They were hungry for something like this, and that's small numbers, right? It hasn't even been a month, right? But enough of an indicator that what it is there's enough value there, and as much time as it might be taking my extra cycles away from work, my leisure time, I feel the trade-off is worth it because it finally gives me something. It gives me purpose. It gives me that satisfaction that I'm a part of something bigger than myself. It gives me that sense of belonging. It gives me something that I felt like I was missing even in doing a Twitch stream and enjoying that and enjoying making. I never had, like with Gnome Decks, the old conference y'all talked about, like that was, I had a place like, okay, it worked. It was great. This was before TEDx. It made sense. And I felt like, oh, that was my thing. That was the thing I was associated with. I really haven't had something by and large since then. I had a couple of other event series, but MakerDeck is again that now in the maker community, as people find out about it, because I kickstarted, I don't want to use that word. I spearheaded. Kickstarted is the wrong word because there's been no money involved in that sense. Because we didn't need it to get started. As in a Kickstarter project. But in spearheading it, now I've got an association with that as a project. So I feel I now feel I have a valid place inside a greater maker community that I didn't have before. So it checks all the boxes as an entrepreneur. And I'm very interested in seeing how it goes or where it goes, quite honestly.
Cool. Well, thank you, Chris. I mean, there's so many other questions we could ask you. We'll just have to bring you back on for another episode, but really appreciate you sharing your journey as a creator with us from back in the day, from being an OG to now. Very, very wonderful to hear about MakerDeck as well. And for everyone, once again, go to twitch.tv/MakerDeck. That's where you can check out the live stream 24/7. And with that,
sorry, I had a QR code. It's too dark over there.
Right there. If you're watching, there's a QR code.
Yeah, I don't know
if it's gonna work.
3D printing. If I could turn on the light, hang on.
Oh, it does work. It does work.
Oh my God, it does work. Sorry, I just blinded everybody. See, I got a little closer there.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a little bit more. So there you go. So there's the value of 3D printing is you can print your own QR code and then hold it up in a camera. Like, yeah, you can't click that link, but you can click this one. So
nice. Yeah. I think that's the first time someone's, like, most times you'll see like a QR code like on a poster or something behind them, or
right.
No, Chris. No, hold my beer. Here's something actual, like a physical. Forget these NFTs. This is an actual physical token that I got right here. So.
That's right. This is very fungible. Very fungible.
VFT, no NFTs.
Yeah.
Like you said, Chris, everything old is new again.
I'm telling you, it's cyclical.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Chris.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, you too. Both of you.
See you again.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks, Greg, for joining me. And God, tune in next time for more episodes. You can definitely check us out on creativeeconomy.com, and there you can sign up to be a guest on the show. And with that, bid you all a fond farewell. See you next time on the Creative Economy Podcast.